Hello, welcome to Recapping with Delora
and Ashley.
Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Recapping Podcast.
Also, comment, rate, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. We're on all the things.
We would love to hear your ratings of the movies and shows we review.
Email us your audio file to recappingpodcast@gmail.com and we will play it during the show.
Or DM us on Instagram and we will post and read it on air.
Thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you.
Delora.
Ashley, how you doing?
Girl, it is the week of Christmas.
Oh, the most wonderful time of the year.
It really is. Our birthday week too. But you know, I give it all to Jesus first. So super excited. Have you been, is the tree up? Are the decorations up? You've been listening to some Christmas music. You've been drinking some spiked eggnog. What's going on over there?
Yes, kind of. Yes. You know, I actually still need to finish some Christmas shopping and I've never been this late in my life. So it's all good. It'll be a very Merry Christmas. And in terms of music, yes. I am a Pentatonic fan. Okay, Ashley. I listen to all the albums, but there's this new album that I've been listening to on repeat, and it's called A Very Merry Maverick Christmas. So this is a Christian album, but what I loved is they have, you know, traditional Christmas songs along with very popular praise and worship music. Go Tell It on the Mountain is one of my faves. It's featuring, I think his name is Melvin Jr. Oh, sorry.
She got excited.
And then, girl, they have a version of Revelations 19:1. Fire. And what I love most about it is that my little toddler is out here singing hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. It's wonderful. Okay, how about you?
Girl, I just put up my Christmas tree last week. So the tree is up. Decorations have been up. I have been slowly but surely listening to Christmas music. I feel like we started early, like we started even before Thanksgiving this year. So I've listened to all the classics, are all my favorites. I've listened to Whitney, Boys to Men, Mariah Carey, NSYNC. I mess with Justin Bieber's Christmas album as well. All the Motown hits, like Justin's Christmas album go hard. Ariana Grande as well. Christmas and Chill is amazing.
Ooh,
I think I had Tori Kelly's Christmas album on my hidden gems at one point. Her Christmas album is phenomenal. And then I was just telling you about JoJo's. I don't know how many people are aware. She has a Christmas album called December Baby. And you know, JoJo has such a phenomenal voice. So love to hear it no matter what song she's singing.
Oh, I want to bring up 3 more artists. Okay. Kelly Clarkson is just phenomenal. She is wonderful. I love her Christmas album. John Legend. He has this one called Purple. I believe it's called Purple Haze. The song, love it. And then my boy, Leslie Odom Jr., his Christmas album, be slapping. So want to bring him out too.
Nice. I still need to find Brian McKnight's Christmas album. He has one and I had found it on Amazon, but then it never came. So y'all, if you know about this album, hit me in the DMs because I'm still looking for it. Okay.
Yes.
Now, my last question before we get into our recap is, are there any Christmas films that you feel like are overrated?
Overrated. Clap, 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 clap. Okay, overrated Christmas movie. I would have to say The Christmas Story.
Same, Delora. Same. I don't get the hype.
I mean, he sticks his tongue on a frozen pole and he wants a BB gun. Okay.
The whole lamp thing is like iconic. I mean, they even there's a hotel here that does this whole ice sculpture thing every year. They did A Christmas Story one year. And I'm like, this is such a beloved film, but I don't personally enjoy it. Sorry to everybody who does. It's just not my thing. So
we're not white males. So I think it wasn't it for us.
Couldn't relate to that childhood.
We were not in the intention for that film, so maybe that's part of the reason.
There you go. Speaking of that, guys, our recap today, as I mentioned at the end of our last pod, is a Christmas medley, and it's two of me and Dolores' favorites. My favorite being the Santa Claus, and Dolores being the holiday. Now, let me say this: we talked about some Black classics, i.e., The Preacher's Wife and This Christmas. But guess what? We want to try to always do recaps that are available to you guys on streaming, and neither of those were available. Streaming services, step your game all the way up.
It feels like this every year, Ashley. Like every time I try to find like a Black Christmas classic, never available, I have to pay for it. Now, I don't know if that's a way for the artists to get their money once a year or whatever, residuals, but I need it to be available on anywhere. Amazon, Hulu, Netflix. Y'all know how to do. You know what to do.
Exactly. I'm very upset about this. Now, granted, I have these at my mama's house on DVD, but the point is we're trying to make sure they're accessible to everybody. So exactly. The Santa Claus and the holiday it is. So guys, let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to start with the Santa Claus as recap 1. This film was released in November 1994. It is currently available to stream on Disney Plus. Quick summary. When a man inadvertently makes Santa fall off his roof on Christmas Eve, he finds himself magically recruited to take his place. The cast. We have Tim Allen as Scott Calvin. We have Eric Lloyd as Charlie. Wendy Crewson as Laura. Judge Reinhold as Neil. And David Krumholtz as Bernard. Reviews. Rotten Tomatoes, 72% critic score, 65% audience score, and yet good old Google users, 93% of y'all said y'all fuck with it. Delora, give me your grade for the Santa Claus.
Thank you, Ashley. I am giving this movie an A-. The reason: I grew up with this film. I adore this film. It was one of the first movies I saw growing up that had my hometown in it as a prominent, background. Shout out Detroit, Michigan. So I was geeked. As we all know, it's Tim Allen. So it gets an A- because I don't like Tim Allen like that no more.
He's a little problematic.
And there's not enough Black people in this movie. Indeed. I am going to go ahead and use 2021 lenses for this because I was kind of going back and forth. I'm like, do I grade this based off of little Delora or current Delora? And I decided the current.
I feel you, girl. I feel you.
What about you?
It gets an A for me because, again, this is one of my go-to Christmas films that I have to watch every single year. Besides The Preacher's Wife, honestly, and this Christmas, I watch this every year. Sometimes a couple times a year. All the nostalgia, childhood Christmas magic. I just get that feeling. That feeling.
It's amazing, and it brings it up every time. And I would like to say this as an asterisk, okay? It was an A+, but it got deducted twice. So that's why we're at A-.
And I told you, my mom still laughs. Like the fact that this film, after watching this for 20 years plus, still makes my mom laugh, just warms my heart. So
love it.
Spoiler alert for anybody who has somehow not seen the Santa Claus at this point.
We're so sorry for you. So sorry.
Let's get into the good of the film. So we start this film with an office Christmas party at the toy company of our main character, Scott. It took this watch in my grown age to feel annoyed with Scott for his mic grab from coworker Susan. Did you peep that? So some type of way, that's your privilege. Oh, sir, needed you to chill. Oh, but Delora, some people get tore up at office Christmas parties. Have you been to any ragers in your time?
No. And there has been drinking. I actually remember a coworker who was like, I don't do Christmas parties, period, because of that. Like, for me, I'm always, the one that signs up for everything. But no, I've never gotten blasted. I am a lightweight technically. So if I'm drinking that much, I'm going to sleep. I'm not about to embarrass myself. What about you?
I feel deprived because I've never been to a evening office Christmas party. Like we've had Christmas parties like during the work day at like lunch where they like cater in and we do gifts. Never have I ever been to one with my company that was like in the evening. So I feel deprived because I would have a good time. Let me tell you though, my mom, her company puts on great Christmas parties. Backstreet Boys performed at their Christmas party one year.
Shut the front door.
Yes.
I thought my last company was doing something because we had like some Cirque du Soleil situation going on from the ceiling, you know, the aerial dancers.
That would be amazing. Like y'all giving me free alcohol, free food, and I get a show. Like say no more. I will be there. I will be there.
Moonlighting and everything.
I will be there. So Scott is divorced and sharing custody of son Charlie with his ex Laura and her psychiatrist husband Neil. I say psychiatrist because he literally is brought up the fact he's a psychiatrist in every scene he's ever in.
Kind of like Rainbow Johnson, Dr. Rainbow Johnson.
Exactly. Some of my favorite lines in the film were the antagonism that Scott always had towards Neil, especially his sweaters. Like I still die to this day. But major conflict came up when Scott finds out Neil told Charlie there's no Santa. Delora, as a parent, give me your thoughts on this. Did Neil overstep? And how old were you when you stopped believing in Santa?
Yes, he overstepped, unless he was talking to both parents before telling Charlie that. He had no business telling Charlie there wasn't any Santa Claus. As for myself, you know, I've always been a serious child person, what have you. I never believed in Santa. I never did. I was that kid that was like, Santa is nice in theory. Like, so on Christmas Eve, I would try to, you know, for scientific purposes, just say, did I hear anything on the roof tonight? Is there snow? Would there be reindeer? Like, you know, I like the idea of it, but my parents were very big on Jesus and them. Like, who bought these gifts?
We paid for this. Give credit where credit is due. What's funny is I should have finished my question because I literally said, how old were you when you stopped believing, if you ever did? Because I know you. So that was literally my whole question.
No, I never fully believed in Santa, but I went through the notions. I mean, it's the holiday.
You're like, I entertained these adults for a little bit. Okay. I played their little game. Girl, I was 3. I was 3. I was young. And what happened to this day, it is heavily debated of my age, because what happened was my mom would always put all the presents in the basement and think for some reason we weren't going to go down to the basement. That was like our play space. So one year, me and my brother went down to the basement and I saw all the toys. And I'm like, Trey, there's no Santa. Look at all these toys. It's my brother. Yeah, my brother is 2 years older than me. And so he was 5. So for the next like 2 years, him and my parents tried to convince me that what I saw wasn't what I really saw. So it's technically like between 3 and 5, but I'm gonna give a strong 3 because I knew that Santa wasn't real. They just tried to manipulate my little mind. So I knew what I saw. Okay. So I was 3. Anyway, Charlie did not seem enthused to be spending Christmas Eve with his dad at first. Do you think Scott worked too much, or was he just inattentive as a parent, possibly, that it didn't seem like they had a great relationship when we start?
That's a great question. I guess where I conclude, I think he was busy and a man. Like, I feel like I take that back because David is actually more festive than I have ever been. Like, he put garland on our stairwell, and I would never have done that anyway. But you know, I don't think he was thinking that hard, Ashley. I think that's the problem, right? I don't think he didn't take the time to think about his son and the fact that he was hosting Christmas. I mean, he was late. And then even then he tried to cook and he burned everything. If he really cared, he probably would have been better prepared. That's my opinion.
And he was lying to Laura about why he was late. Oh, traffic is horrible. This isn't that. There was no traffic, right? Like he reminded me of Jim Carrey on Liar Liar in the sense that he just put his work first. It's not that he didn't care about his son. I just think, unfortunately, as this divorced father, he was more concerned with himself and his career than he probably was with his relationship with his child, which is just the financial side of being a parent. But there's so many facets of parenting other than physical, financial, it's the relationship. Your kid wants your attention and affection. They're a kid. But to your point, Scott tried to cook dinner. But after burning everything, including that turkey, poor turkey, RIP, Denny's it was. Have you ever had to pivot holiday plans like this?
No, never to this extent. If anything, it is very traditional for my family growing up to order pizza on like Thanksgiving Eve. Because it's like, my mom's like, I'm cooking for tomorrow. I'm not cooking tonight. If anything, for Christmas, we've been known to switch it up, like have Italian or something like that instead of like a ham or roast or something like that. So, but never this badly where we had to eat out. How about you?
Yeah, I haven't had this issue either, but I am starting to like more non-traditional holiday plans, right? Because I think now we're adults, the allure of holidays isn't quite the same. It's just more about the time, the quality time spent. So like I'm enjoying now, especially living in a warmer climate. Oh, we barbecue instead of, doing ham or things like that, more traditional. My mom for Christmas is requesting tacos. So I may throw down on some tacos for her. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, just as long as I get to spend time, because last year I wasn't with my family, and that was really, really hard for me. So as long as I get to be with my family, I don't really care what we do. So all the fun begins Christmas Eve night when Charlie hears a clatter on the roof. When Scott investigates, he startles Santa, who falls to his death. Instructions in his pocket tell him to put on the suit. The reindeer will know what to do before his body disappears. Girl, how many Santas do you think have died this way? And would you put on this funky little suit?
You're asking me some heavy hitting questions here. I don't know. I'm imagining a lot through the centuries, right? Which is devastating, but I guess
the little wave Santa did this time kind of freaked me out a little bit. I was like, oh, that's weird.
Well, it's so funny because we monitor what Amara watches, but there's so much death in these kids shows. Like, it's in everything. So this was kind of morbid. And as a kid, I guess you don't really process it the same way, but it's not like, at all. Okay, this is pretty serious. Would I have put on the suit? I genuinely don't know. I don't know if I would. Would you?
I feel like it was a lot of pressure coming from Charlie. So yes, I probably would have, for the sake of appeasing my kid. Yeah. Because I also think as an adult, you're not taking this too seriously. You're like, what is happening? My kid's suddenly up on the roof. Real? Yeah. Is this even real? I'm seeing Comet up here acting like he got a whole personality. There's a sleigh on my roof. Like, what is going on? So I think I probably would have, as an adult, just played along, because you just can't really grasp what's going on around you. After reluctantly following Charlie's lead and getting in the sleigh, off we go to a night filled with attempting to fill Santa's shoes. Chimneys were magically created. Toys were constantly filled in the bag that could also fly for drop off. And finally, Delora, we head to the North Pole and the workshop. The elves, they all look like children, but as one tells him, I've pointed shoes that are older than you. It dawned on me that none of the elves, to my question earlier, seemed sad or surprised to see a new Santa taking over. So again, how often does this happen? You know what I'm saying? Wowzer. Were you impressed with Santa's workshop as a kid? Was this everything you thought it would be?
That was part of the movie magic of this film. That was the best part. Him being in the North Pole. Everything was just so beautiful and magical, and amazing. Disney had that
budget, so that set was on point.
I mean, his bedroom alone with it was just phenomenal. I wanted to drink the coffee,
The
the
hot
hot
chocolate.
chocolate that Judy was making. Like, I want some,
Same.
I was right there. It was amazing.
Loved it so much. I still love it. It's still like if they built that set at like the Disney parks, I would definitely go see it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Still exciting. Head elf Bernard gives Scott the rundown, including the Santa Claus, which in fine print on the card says that Scott has agreed to be Santa now since he put on the suit. He has 11 months, the Lord, to get his affairs in order and has to be back to the workshop by Thanksgiving. He is not excited nor convinced. Back home he goes on Christmas, wakes up, and Scott thinks it was all a dream, without any proof beyond Charlie's shared memory in his red silk SC pajamas. Things got a bit tense at career day when Charlie presents Scott to his class as Santa and relays the night's events. Laura and Neil and the principal were concerned about Charlie's grasp on reality and Scott's influence. Now, as the audience, we of course know what happened, but how do you think you'd react if you were Laura and Neil?
I would definitely be concerned, right? It's like, what are you talking about? Yes, your dad works for a toy manufacturer. That makes sense, but he's not Santa. It was rough. It was rough, but they kind of went too far, though, in my opinion.
So, yet again, in terms of overstepping, the scene where Neil questions whether Charlie spending time with Scott was what's best for him was entirely too much for me. I'm the father. Have several seats, sir. Scott asked Charlie to keep what happened a secret after, again, the obvious concern coming from everybody. But his physical transformation, Delora, becomes undeniable. In my mom's favorite scene, his coworkers were stunned by his overnight weight gain, claims he was stung by a bee. Girl, he gained 45 pounds in a week. Tries to get medical help, but to no avail. He is only 38 years old.
Was he only 38?
Wow. 38 years old.
What I love, though, was his heartbeat.
The jingle bells.
Yes. Love
Such a good touch. Such a good touch. Beyond the weight and beyond the heartbeat, he grows a beard that even when shaved, quickly grows back and his hair turns white. Children began approaching him in public with their requests. As we see Scott slowly embracing his role, Laura and Neil think he's completely delusional and trying to alter himself to win Charlie's love. They strip visitation from him. Delora, would you have taken this step?
They went too far. Entirely too far. He's still his father at the end of the day. I mean, I can see how it can be confusing considering the physical transformation that he was no longer able to hide, right? So it's like, what are you doing? Are you feeding into this just so you can have favor with our son? But I don't know. It's such a hard position to be in because, again, I've watched this movie however many times through the year. So, of course, I'm on Charlie and Scott's side.
Exactly.
So, to get to understand or be in the shoes of Laura and Neil, I don't know. It's a tough one. It's a tough one.
Oh, it's super tough, especially as adults, because it's so different than watching as a child. As a child, it was like, how could you guys do this to Santa and to Scott? You know what I mean? Like to see him sit in the room with the judge and for the judge to say right before Christmas, hey, we're stripping you of all your visitation. That was a lot. And my thought was, I know that we're not together anymore, but Laura, don't you think maybe it would have been best for us to have some type of consultation with somebody, maybe a mental health professional, to talk this through before you just went so far as to remove my son from my life?
Yeah, definitely a neutral third party, because Neil definitely, I don't know what was Neil's motivation obviously was to protect his wife and now his, stepson, but he was obnoxious after a while.
Obnoxious. Again, you are not the father. You are the stepfather. Respect and know your role. Despite this, Scott swings by and after a little magic from a snow globe, is reminded by Charlie of who he is. Bernard also pops up, and the three head to the North Pole. Laura and Neil think he has kidnapped Charlie and alert the police. While the elves show Scott some cool new tricks at the North Pole, such as upgrades to the sleigh and a flame retardant suit, Scott's biggest worry, understandably, is falling off the roof. He manages to survive and makes a few deliveries before he's apprehended, leaving gifts at Laura and Neil's house. Kids watching were traumatized, seeing Santa get taken under arrest. Poor kids. But guys, don't worry. There's a whole squad of elves, and that is Effective Liberating Flight Squad.
Yes.
Ready to break him out with magic tinsel. Amazing.
That was my favorite part. Like, I thought they were the coolest kids ever.
When they rescue Charlie from the roof and they're flying through the neighborhood.
All in the air with their one leg, popped in. I'm like, oh my goodness. And of course you use holiday decorations that are now weapons or instruments to escape. Like, genius. Loved it.
Yeah. I think now it just reminds me of probably why I wanted to fly as a kid, because I watched stuff like this. And, you had Peter Pan. And I'm like, oh, I just want to be able to fly. Thank God I never tried to jump off a roof or anything like that.
Hook, watching this in Hook.
I'm telling you, wanted to learn so bad.
Rufio. Sorry.
Oh. So to wrap
that one of these days.
Is that around Christmas for Hook?
It's one of the movies that I like to watch around the holidays.
I was gonna say, I definitely remember there being some level of holidays in it. Yeah. We'll get to that possibly as another TBT. But to wrap this film, we see even Laura and Neil become believers, reverse course on visitation, and receive the gifts they were deprived of as children. Mystery date for Laura and an Oscar Mayer weenie whistle for Neil. I feel like that was so on the nose because he was a weenie to me. And Charlie's relationship with his dad is rock solid. Great perks to being Santa's kid, obviously. Delora, as Judy told us, the elf, not the waitress, seeing isn't believing. Believing is seeing. Okay. Final thoughts on our first Christmas film, The Santa Claus.
It was truly a joy. Loved it. I've already watched it 5 times this year.
Oh,
already.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So the others leave much to be desired, but this one is solid and worth watching each year.
Yeah, we don't speak on the others, but the Santa Claus is still a classic.
My final thought. What I love most about this film is the fact that the title is just a play on words. The fact that the clause is actually a literal legal binding agreement.
Mm-hmm.
I guess such a kick out of that. Loved it.
Last line in a contract, as Bernard said. My final thought is just it's easy to become disillusioned as an adult. So watching childhood classics like this, I just love that I can still feel that magic. And I hope that I always do, because that's why I love this time of year,
Mm-hmm.
So let's move on to our second recap holiday film, The Holiday, released in November 2006 and available to stream on Hulu. If you guys couldn't tell, this is Dolores' jam. Just a quick summary. 2 women on opposite sides of the globe swap houses only to discover that a change of address can really change their lives. Brought to you by the great writer-director, Nancy Meyers.
The GOAT of rom-com.
The GOAT. Let's get into this cast. We have Kate Winslet as Iris, Cameron Diaz as Amanda, Jack Black as Miles, and Jude Law as Graham. Reviews, Rotten Tomatoes, 49% critic score, harsh. 80% audience score, and 91% of Google users fuck with it. Delora, give me your grade for The Holiday.
Oh, I love this film so much, and the joy that I still get watching it, and the feels. Like, I love a good rom-com. And as we mentioned last week with the Sex and the City reboot, not all things age well, but this one for me is just still so magical. I give it actually an A-. And for the same reason I gave the Santa Claus an A-, through 2021's lenses, there was not one Black person who had a speaking role. Or it doesn't even have to be Black, just a person of color. I'm like, I know LA and London got pigmented people, right? Like, a melanated people. So
for sure.
That is the only reason why it gets an A-, but it is such a joy. And I never got the Jude Law thing until this movie. And even then, it's only in this movie, but still, he was phenomenal. I'm like, yes, Jude.
I cannot believe I'm being nicer than you this week. I give this an A as well. And I think it's because I'm feeling so festive and generous. And this film has such a stellar cast. And also, Cameron Diaz owning a production company that made film trailers was actually an inspiration for me when this movie first came out, because I had never seen that. And it was a career that I had never even thought really existed or thought about. So that was dope. Also, I love a holiday romance. And to your point, Jude Law was Jude Law in this movie, honey.
Yes, he was.
Any scandal be damned. I saw it. I felt it. He was fine in this movie.
And again, I think this is the only film that I was like, I get Jude Law now. I get it. Because for many years, I was like, what are we doing? Okay, he's British. So was so many other people.
Exactly. It was never been the accent for me. You know, it's
I'm teasing.
It's the charm, it's the face, it's the smirk. Anyway.
And he's a man who cries. He's okay with his inner self. Vulnerability.
He was sobbing. All right, spoiler alert. As we get into the good, again, if you have not seen The Holiday, it is available to you on Hulu. So we hear narration from the lovely Kate Winslet to start the film, discussing love, including what she calls the cruelest of them all, unrequited, which she finds herself dealing with as one of our leading ladies, writer Iris. She's in the UK and been in love with coworker Jasper for 3 years. They dated.
That asshole.
Girl. They dated. He cheated. But she's still been hanging on for occasional emails, phone calls, and long lunches while his girlfriend isn't around. And to add insult to injury, she has to stand by as his engagement with said girlfriend is announced at the office Christmas party.
He didn't even give her the grace of telling her beforehand. Like, she was completely blindsided.
And Iris writes the wedding announcements. Yikes, right? It was so hard to watch. How'd you feel about Iris's unrequited love?
I felt so sorry for her. Like, I know what it's like to have a crush and, not be reciprocated, but this woman, it took 3 years of her life dealing with this man. And for him to, it's not even him at this point. With 3 years, it was her making herself available to this man while he's off developing entire relationships that now resulted in a freaking engagement. You know what I mean? Like, she made herself way too available to him, but that was really sad for me to watch.
It was painful. He's an emotional manipulator. You could see the charm and the way he had her hanging on. Just even based on his general behavior, when just before the engagement was announced, you still come to her office, you're still chatting her up, you're still complimenting her, you're still talking about exchanging gifts. You had every opportunity to let her know the reality, but you like that she's so obsessed with you. You like that she's in love with you. It's emotional manipulation. And for me, as Jen once said of Brad Pitt, sensitivity chip is definitely missing. Like, something is off. So
he was a terrorist. An emotional
terrorist. Had that gun to your head, sis. In the States, California specifically, we have our other leading lady, Amanda, who has discovered that her boyfriend, Ethan, is cheating with his receptionist. How cliche. And kicks him out. He denied the affair until the bitter end of their argument, Delora. He was gaslighting her, particularly over her inability to cry. Did you feel her punching him in the face was justified?
All right. So I always loved it, but watching it again for this recap with 2021 lenses, I was like, oof. I know what he did was wrong, but that was also very wrong too. But I have
you punched him not once
years.
but twice in the face.
Yeah, that was a tough one, Ashley. I'm waddling the fence here. You know what I mean?
If this were a fantasy within the film, acceptable, but the reality is we don't condone physical violence either way. Right. So her punching him in the face was not the best strategy, because at the end of the day, she shouldn't have put her hands on that man. But did it feel satisfying in the moment? Not gonna lie, yes, it did. Because it was another guy who you just kind of saw emotionally terrorizing her, in the sense that he was just trying to make it seem like this was all in her head and it was really all her fault, and she's the one who's emotionally unavailable and all this stuff. And it takes till the very end for him to finally admit that he has indeed been sleeping around. And Delora, I just finished Dirty John, the Betty Broderick story. So I really, in my mind, I'm not here for these type of shenanigans. Like, that
he was like, so are you happy? Like, what? Am I happy?
Like, it was not a great scene.
No.
Understandably, after this whole situation, Amanda decides she needs to get out of town for a vacay. Using good old Google, she finds vacation rentals, specifically Iris's place, just in time as Iris is hitting a very low moment and is breathing in gas from her damn stove.
Oof, a low point.
Extremely. Our ladies chat and decide to swap places for 2 weeks for the holiday. I remember seeing this back in the day and thinking this swap seemed crazy, but now with like my Airbnb usage, it's not a wild thought at all to me. If there's like a vetted site that you work through, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So between the two, whose place would you have wanted to holiday at, Laura?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. I actually wrote down that question too. I'm like, who had the better stay? I wonder. I don't know. I think it depends on the mood. Let's keep it 1,000. Amanda's place was fire. It actually still holds up to today. You know what I mean? As a lover of real estate, as you know, we love like selling Sunset and all that. Amazing.
Yeah.
But that British cottage is just so quaint and so adorable and cozy. Like, I would stay at both at one, depending on whatever mood I'm in. You know what I mean? I think it just depends on that, but I would stay at either one. How about you?
Oh, I'm at Amanda's house all day. Like, she'd have to kick me out. Like, that house, the movie collection, the blackout curtains, the pool, like, that's my whole vibe. You know, I'll be heading to LA, and I wish I had an Amanda's house to stay at, because that was amazing. So it's Amanda's house for me. And, you know, I don't like the cold, so I'm definitely not going to Iris's house in the winter.
I would definitely get nice and cozy. It would be a moment, but I wouldn't stay. I wouldn't live there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I would experience it.
Just a little holiday. Very cute. Yeah. Amanda's driving was nerve-wracking, but we do see both ladies make themselves at home. Both get surprise visitors, or meet cutes, as they say in the rom-com world.
Yes.
Miles, a coworker of Ethan, drops by to pick up his laptop and meets Iris, while Iris's brother Graham drunkenly comes by and meets Amanda, hoping to crash. Would you have let this handsome stranger in the British cottage?
Oh, Ashley, you know what I always say, the handsome ones be the psychopaths anyway.
They do be. Mm-hmm.
I would say no, negative. I would have needed more proof or something to let you in. I am not only not at home, right? I'm in a whole nother country. I don't know you.
Stranger danger, Laura. I'm gonna pick up. I'm gonna be like, sir, can you please stay outside? I'm closing. I'm gonna lock it. First of all, I don't even answer the door 99.999% of the time. So I probably would have left him outside, picked up the phone, called Iris, and then said, there's some crazo out here yelling. Do you know who this person supposedly is? And then I'm going to talk that through. You know what I mean? Yep. If not, have called the cops. So yeah. But, you know, again, it's rom-com. This actually saved Amanda from leaving, because she had repacked and was going to dip from loneliness. So They moved quickly, Laura. He kissed her goodnight, then
Woo!
start kissing on her eyes.
That's the part for me. When she was like, okay, well, maybe I should close my eyes. And of course she was expecting him to kiss again. He was like, nope, let me get up in there. I'm like, oh my God.
And it did the trick, girl, because they hit the sheets. Okay. Yes. Amanda the next day made it all the way to the airport security before coming back for seconds because Graham had invited her out. Iris is trying to move on from Jasper and tells him as much via email, but he still calls her on holiday asking for help on his book and also asking about her little red bikini. On a scale from 1 to 10, how toxic is Jasper?
20. 20. I actually, obviously he's the villain, right? But I feel like I hated him more now as an adult than I did when I was younger, because this right here, this is evil. This is evil at this rate.
You know what I took solace in this last watch is the fact that because he's so trash, girl, your fiance can have you because you're going to be somebody who does not stay faithful during the course of y'all marriage anyway. So go ahead and have him, sis. Go ahead.
True.
Trash bag. Tristan, trash bag. Have him, sis. Have him. Iris forms a bond with Amanda's neighbor, Arthur, an Oscar-winning former Hollywood writer who provides some valuable and needed wisdom. He told her, you're a leading lady, but for some reason, you're behaving like the best friend. Ooh. One of my favorite lines ever.
Same.
Ever.
That was beautiful.
Amanda and Graham continue getting to know each other, and although Amanda tries not to make things complicated, pops up at this man's house and surprise, finds out he's a widowed single dad of 2. Is it ever a good idea to pop up unexpectedly at a lover's house, and was it too soon to meet the kids?
Ooh, I mean, he popped up on her, so I don't really see the problem because there were some assumptions made in the way he was, he had introduced himself to her. So although at this rate, she was under the assumption that he was a player because he sees all these ladies' names in his phone calling him throughout the day.
And remember their first night, she was like, I don't ever do this. He said, oh, I do this all the time. So you definitely get the thought that he's out here living his best life.
Best life. And was it too soon to meet the kids? Of course, but she didn't know he had them. So what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Just turn her away? Like
his daughters were so stinking cute.
So sweet. So sweet.
She said, one of the daughters said, we never have grown-ups here who are ladies. I kind of like it. And the other daughter, me too. Oh my God.
Sophie and Olivia.
Oh, so cute. Iris convinces Arthur to attend a tribute night in his honor by the Writers Guild and even helps him prep physically to walk across the stage without his walker. She's also by Miles' side when he discovers his girlfriend Maggie is cheating on him, something she can very much relate to. Just as she's seemingly moving on, Jasper pops up at Amanda's house in LA. What the fuck?
Ashley, I was done. I was like, when she finally took her time back, when she finally stood up for herself, he thought that was a green light to push harder, to fly halfway around the world to see this woman when you're clearly unavailable.
Girl, claims he had to see her. But where's your whole fiance? Because as we know, this man is still engaged, talking about, I wish you could understand how confused I am. Confused? You made a commitment. You ain't confused.
Do you think he was only stringing her along for the power or for his book?
For the power. I think it's so much more than just any one project, any one moment. I think he loved that she loved him. I think he fed off of it.
Yeah. Narcissist.
Toxic. And Miles is going through the same thing with Maggie, who after he saw her outside of like Blockbuster with another man, decides to call him someone I miss you and ask him for forgiveness. Delora, thankfully, they both choose the healthiest option for them and move on together. Amanda had opened up to Graham on her parents' unexpected divorce at 15 and her inability to cry ever since. Why do you think by the end of the film, she's finally able to shed a tear as she was about to leave?
She finally met someone who touched her heart. Like, up until this point, I mean, let's think about Amanda's character, right? Like, she's breaking up with a man who said that she was never available, you know, physically with her
Told
time,
her she was bad
emotional,
in bed.
bad in bed, exactly. And now she met this man and his family, and you know, it just game changer. When you meet the right people, you know, you grow, right? Because they feed into you, they add, they multiply, they do not subtract and divide from you.
Oh, I felt that. I look like I'm about to shed a tear, but it's an eyelash, but I felt that in my soul.
Yeah.
That was beautifully said, Delora. As we wrap, our foursome gets together at Graham's in England on New Year's Eve as Amanda extended her stay and Miles made the trip for Iris. Did you ship one couple more than the other in this film?
So I will say that the heat was with Amanda and Graham for sure.
Right.
But I think it's because the relationship started off on that foot. I really did enjoy Iris and Miles' relationship because I love when friends are able to grow into something more. I thought it was interesting too because he was kissing her on the cheek and he was still in a relationship. Like that night when she invited him over for the Hanukkah dinner and he was like, oh, great dinner, and kissed her on the cheek. And I'm like, now this is kind of endearing. And I don't know how okay it is in 2021 to do this, but
if I found out my man was kissing some other chick on the cheek, there would definitely be a problem.
Absolutely. But I'm just saying in terms of the conversation of consent and things like that. And
okay.
But yeah, again, Jack Black is somebody's husband, okay, not mine, but I really loved his humor. Like he was pretty good as a leading guy. You know what I mean? Like I was shipping them.
I loved him, especially the fact that he was like a composer of music for movies and just his like his love for that, his passion for that. I love people who are passionate about things.
Yeah.
And want to teach you about things.
You do know that one of the occupations I wanted to do when I was younger was to play music for movies. Like that was something.
Yeah, I did not know that.
Very much into band, and I was like, I want to be a part of the soundtrack for movies, like be part of the orchestra or whatever.
It's never too late, sis.
It's never too late, but that's the piece about this movie that I love so much. I guess this is kind of my final thoughts, right? Sorry, did you have something else before I go into this?
Go ahead. I'll sum all my stuff up after you're done. Go ahead.
The thing that I love about this movie, and my Nancy Meyers know how to make a rom-com, okay? But I love how in her films, love the brightness, but that's traditional rom-com. The acting was well done. It was fun. It was flirty. It was beautiful. I love the intergenerational aspect of her films too. She's really good at that. The friendship that Iris has with Arthur was so inspiring and lovely, and how she got him out of his shell, and just even the conversation of different types of love. Like he was a widower himself, you know, but his love for his wife was so strong that it still inspired Iris to want something more, you know. The other thing, Hans Zimmer was in the bag when it comes to the composition of this film. That song, the main theme song, just makes me smile over and over again. This is part of the reason why I love Bridgerton so much. The music was so great. It swelled at the right moment. It was just phenomenal. Shout out to Chris Bowser. You're doing the damn thing out here in these streets. So one of my faves. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I Other than I would have liked to see a Black person say something in the film. How about that?
I want to go back just real quick to my thoughts on did I enjoy or ship one more than the other. I think I'm on your exact same page. I enjoyed that they were different because I do think that we got different variations and not one cookie cutter. This is what love looks like rom-com experience. Amanda and Graham was such an immediate spark that the Miles and Iris being this slow burn felt so good and felt so right as well. Yeah. So I love the way that you said that. And then just my final thoughts on the holiday. At one point this last watch, I started to wonder if they'd really be better off swapping permanently. It felt like they fit better in the other person's world than in their own. And so by the end, I was like, so what are we going to do? We see our foursome in England, but it's like, what does this mean? Because obviously you have Jack Black and Cameron Diaz characters who live in LA, and you have Jude Law and Kate Winslet who live in England. And are we gonna be taking trips together? Like, how is this really gonna work? So it left me more so wondering about that than I think I ever have when I've watched before.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that because I actually thought that too. I was like, should we have gotten a sequel? Like,
like what happened after New Year's Eve? Because it seemed like they, to your point about even the relationship between Iris and Arthur, it seemed like they developed such great relationships within the places that they were living that it almost seemed like they were going to be miserable if they tried to go back and live their previous lives. You know what I mean? They had her and Arthur, her and Jack Black, and then you have Cameron Diaz and Jude Law and his family. Like, what are we going to do? So those are just my final thoughts. But overall, I'm so glad we did this Christmas medley. Guys, feel free to give us your thoughts on this. But Delora, instead of hidden gems this week, we're going to give some Christmas content suggestions to you guys that we've been watching out here in the streaming world. So Delora, hit me with your list first.
Thank you, Ashley. And I like to shout out Kylia for the suggestion. All right. So for Netflix, Jingle Jangle. We recapped this last Christmas. It is a staple in this household every holiday moving forward. Okay. Classic. Black excellence. Okay. In front and behind the camera. Klaus on Netflix. This one, I believe, won an Academy Award for Best Animation, if not nominated. Beautiful animation, beautiful story. Lots of fun. Highly recommend animation. These are all kiddie movies at this point. My favorite, Just Friends. Ryan Reynolds, married all day, every day. Okay.
He was so hilarious in Just Friends too.
Hilarious. So funny. Me and my girlfriend, Aaliyah, we always are like, forgiveness.
It's more than saying sorry.
Are you sorry? And then this is not a holiday film, but I watch it this time of year. Every year, Stardust, Claire Danes, Robin De Niro. It's like an epic fairy tale just on the screen. Michelle Pfeiffer. Love, love, love. Hulu, The Holiday. We just recapped it, but I have to reiterate it. Disney, Anastasia. Love Anastasia. Love watching it this time of year. Classic. And finally on Amazon, Last Holiday with Queen Latifah and LL Cool J.
Oh yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. So what about you, Ashley?
All right. I have 4. My first one is Holiday Rush on Netflix. Story of a widowed dad with 4 spoiled kids who faces financial situation right before Christmas. There's family, there's romance. It was so cute. Black cast. Check it out. Second one, also Netflix, Single All the Way. I'm sure you guys have seen this in Netflix's top 10.
Yes.
A story of boy brings best friend home for Christmas, wanting best friend to pretend to be his boyfriend, only to discover real feelings may have been there all along. Again, romance, some faves are in the cast for me. It was just such a feel good. Check it out. Third one, Netflix as well. Blown Away Christmas, my favorite and only glass blowing competition, came back with some faves from season 1 and season 2 and 4 brand new episodes to mark the Christmas season and spirit. Love this. Check it out if you got into any of the Blown Away previous seasons, but just in general, it's so fun to see people blow glass of festive holiday stuff. I mean, it was dope. Okay. And my fourth and final, Hawkeye on Disney Plus. Have to throw in a little bit of Marvel because y'all know me and Delora do all the Marvel projects.
Yep.
5 episodes currently available of Hawkeye, which sees Clint Barton trying to get back to his family for Christmas, only to be derailed by his New York City past, and biggest fan and fellow skilled archer, Kate Bishop. Haley Steinfeld is my girl. I was not familiar with Kate since I don't read the comics, but I'm enjoying the ride. So guys, those are our Christmas content drops. Feel free to check them out. I'm sure there's plenty more out there, but those are just the ones we wanted to suggest. Delora, this is our final episode of 2021.
Oh my gosh, we did it. We made it.
Guys, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, Recap Nation. Okay.
Merry Christmas, y'all. Happy New Year. Be blessed. Be safe. We are so excited for what's to come in this new year. Exciting things on the horizon.
Absolutely. We will be back with a new episode on Tuesday, January 4th. And it's another In Conversation, this time with actress Renika Williams, aka Willow, from The Sex Lives of College Girls, streaming on HBO Max. Check out season 1 during your holidays and stay tuned for a great chat. Delora, I love you. It has been an amazing year, and we will see you next time.
Ashley, I love you, and I cannot wait. Love you guys. Love you, Recap Nation.